about the experience.
Yep.
Right? You, as a teacher, need to provide a good experience to the kids and the families in the classroom. We need to give you a good experience with a good schedule, the right kind of staffing so that you don't lose breaks or silly things like that. We need to make sure that you get what you deserve as a good teacher, which for us is a 15-minute paid break in the morning, which I bring from manufacturing. And then I bring that from manufacturing, which I can come back to that in a little bit. And then you get your lunch. And by the way, you need to treat each other with respect. You need to be on time for your breaks, because if you're not on time, you're going to negatively impact somebody else.
Yep.
Right. And so we talk about that, and then we say, and then we want to have a good experience as owners. So we want to make sure the business grows, and then out of that, you guys will be rewarded. The families will feel good. We'll feel good about that, and we actually can, maybe take a paycheck.
Welcome to Enrich Your Empire with Richie Huffman, the ultimate podcast for entrepreneurship, impactful wealth building, and effective team leadership. It's time to enrich your business and create a lasting legacy. Let's get to work. Hey guys, so we're here at FranCon Celebree School 2026 in the beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm here with my good friend Karl Neumaier. That's gone from you had a really big job, CEO to entrepreneur in the childcare industry.
Yeah, it was quite a ride. 30 years and working in between the construction and the automotive space, and just not overinflate my ego with COO for only North America, right? Because it was a global company.
But big job.
It was a big job, and got the opportunity to do a lot of different things. I was definitely able to exercise my chops in a lot of different kinds of ways. Long time in supply chain, honestly. Like if you think about logistics, supply chain, all the things that everybody blames when things are not available, that was kind of my job. And I remember at one point earlier in my career, I had a boss. I asked the boss, what is it going to take for my team to get some good recognition for the good work we do? and he looked at me and said, Karl, the ultimate compliment for supply chain is for nobody to talk about supply chain.
Wow.
And he didn't mean it in a mean-spirited way.
No, I got it.
But he was just like, people only talk about logistics when something doesn't go wrong. You think about like an Amazon box that doesn't show up when you expect on your Prime Day or something. Yeah. You're like, God, that didn't work. Well, that was supply chain. But anyway, near the end of my career, I actually didn't even have supply chain responsibility as COO. We actually carved it out and gave it to another person, because frankly, my job had gotten too big, to your point about a job being too big. But I had things like corporate communications, so I learned how to talk in front of a camera. I had a person working for me, and I never will forget the advice she gave me. I like to use self-deprecating humor. It's kind of just a little bit my brand. And she got mad at me because I would use it repeatedly. And she said, you are undermining your own importance in the organization. You're belittling yourself like that. You can't do that other than to break the ice to get an initial engagement.
Wow.
You shouldn't do it. And so I learned a lot of really good things from her, and I learned about business development and marketing in that role. And but I had a great run, and in 2022, just due to some life things that happened for Jennifer and me, with my parents dying and her dad dying, we reached a conclusion. Okay, we need to take a break from everything, because I've been going really hard for 30 years in my career. I mean, I've really worked hard in my career, and then from there, I ended up with Celebree. Wow. Right, which was a great decision, I think.
Wow. So let me back up a little bit, because
Sure.
you said something, I'm not sure if you caught it or not, but I definitely have some interest in what you just said.
Sure.
So in the story you just told in your career, how many employees are you talking about?
It would range depending on what part of the organization or what time in the organization. But I think the smallest team I had I'll go just back to Hilti, was probably around 250 to 300, and I think probably maybe I'm thinking about the last one I had. Maybe 130, 140.
Okay.
Was probably the max, and that one had more business development, so it was more strategic in nature, and I had a lot of I'll call breadth of responsibilities, which meant we had a lot of small teams, So the breadth brings its own challenges when you're trying to shift gears from something very tactical, in my opinion, like customer service support, not the actual customer service agents, but the stuff behind the scenes that like makes it work. That was a really small team. But then I had business development for things like some of our biggest customers that we had in North America, which I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about. It's been a few years.
Yeah. I'm asking the question of how big of a team because I want to get to the dialogue that we just had, which was here you are overseeing 250 people and you're thinking about, and this is just your leadership style, I think, of how do I recognize my team? How do I grow and develop my team? And then your boss is like, why are you focused on that, Karl? You should, the only thing you should care about is just pleasing our customers and making sure they're not calling us with complaints. So that's where I want to go with you, right?
Oh, good.
Because like you're like my people. Like here at Celebree, it's about growing people big and small. So you had that philosophy already in you.
Yeah, we did. You know, we had this philosophy at Hilti where we developed people from within, and we were very proud of about, I'd say, I want to say it was like 80% ish of our promotions were promotions from within.
Perfect. I love that.
Now, we did have a little bit of an insertion when you get into the director area. It's probably a little bit less than that because that's typically where we would bring in some outside talent to try to maybe say augment something we weren't really good at because we recognize the importance of, I'll call it buying talent to help
Took
us.
too long to build, right?
Yeah, too long to build.
to develop.
Yeah. But at the same time, we wouldn't acquire near the end we did, but generally we wouldn't acquire businesses. We would try to acquire knowledge and then build the business because we had this very organic feel to how we tried to do things. But you had to develop people, to your point, Richie.
Yep.
And, you know, when I had supply chain, for sure, it was about my functional competency. And I really leaned in on that. And I do think I did a good job of recognizing my team there. But I would actually say, like, near the end of my career, when I was doing things like corporate communications, customer service operations, IT, business development with some of these customers, both actual retail customers as well as like I can say like data centers, which like you're doing the work before the engineers and the architects even get involved. I didn't know anything about that stuff. And so what I really had to lean in on was my ability to connect with people, help understand what motivates them, help understand what are the challenges they face. And then my job honestly became, how do I empower them and how do I give them the resources and or the support that they need in order to clear the board, so to speak, so that they can go run their game. And I had to learn things that I never learned. And just like I talked earlier about the corporate communications person, you know, I helped her too because she was in charge of all of our events for North America as well. And so my competency I brought her was I brought a little bit more structure because of my operations background. I was like, okay, I love what you guys are doing, but I can't handle this like kind of chaotic approach to things. I need to see a structure and a process. And so I was able to bring that from a functional viewpoint, but it was mostly coaching and getting to know people and then recognizing them for a good work that they did because, you know, I can't take credit for a sale for a large, let's say, data center customer because I probably wouldn't even meet with the customer because I wouldn't have signed the NDA. Right.
So how have you taken? So I mean, so much language that you just used that
I'm sorry.
No good meaning that a lot of the language that you just use is what we use in the Celebree world.
I agree.
Right. So tell us a little bit about that transition from going from a COO with those philosophies into an entrepreneur, owning your own business, owning your own school, and how you transfer those competencies as you.
So honestly, I mean, if I take that step back and I even go to when Jennifer and I were first meeting with you guys the first time and then the second time, I think, the third time was when we flew out for the second time. And this grow big thing was really attractive to me.
It's the world you came from.
It was the world I came from. And frankly, it was the thing that I learned that I really like doing this.
You have to have it.
You do. And frankly, I think, I don't want to become overly religious, but you know, I do believe that we're all put on this planet to do good by other people. And the only way we help build society is by helping each other. And I feel like I've found my sweet spot in life in terms of how I help humanity. I do it in the community with some of the fundraising stuff and some of the nonprofit stuff I do. And then I saw this opportunity to lean into an industry that frankly at times feels like it's hemorrhaging people. When you look at the press, teachers leaving the industry, and feelings of underappreciation, turnover rates in some, not ours, but turnover rates approaching retail in the industry as an aggregate. And frankly, I love a challenge. And I was like, well, I want to lean in and I want to see if I can do something here. And then because Jennifer and I are passionate about education, which is the kind of the grow small part, not kind of, it is the grow small part, it became just this natural, it felt like a natural fit.
Wow.
And what I would tell you though, like as a COO, like I had to like relearn how to do things. Like the first time we hired somebody, after I made the hiring decision, I realized I don't have an HR department to turn this over to.
Wow.
How do I onboard a person? How do I set up payroll? Right? And one of the nice things about
the file's just not going down the hallway, right? For someone else to.
Well, admittedly, I gave the file to somebody else.
Did you?
I didn't even sometimes know where it would go, right? Yeah. Or I'd hit an email to my HR person, and like there was no HR person. I am an HR person. But I think that being able to lean in on that people side of it was huge. When we interviewed, learning from you guys, because the nice thing about the franchise model is that you get a playbook. The playbook may not have all the plays completely developed the way I'm used to it, but at least there's a playbook, right? And so, like we have the competency-based interview process, which we had something very similar. We call it behavioral interview.
There you go.
And the boxes are kind of similar. Except for examples like excellence in education, that wasn't one of ours. It might have been excellence in supply chain or excellence in communication as an example. And we met and we were able to use that when we were interviewing for our school director. The school director we have, she's amazing. Actually, I would argue she interviewed us as much as we interviewed her, which I loved. Yeah. That in the interview
player.
because
That's a player.
She knew.
Yeah, she's a player.
She wanted to know what she was getting into, and so I used to always like interviews. Well, not like them. They were usually bad, but I felt sorry for the people that wouldn't ask questions at the end of an interview and say, "Hey, I'd like to give you some time to talk." No, I really don't have any questions. Okay, check that box.
Such a turnoff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like obviously you're not curious, right? Yeah. And she was incredibly curious. She wanted to know about like what we knew about the creative curriculum and some of she had done some research on Google, and I was like, I don't know any of this stuff yet, right?
That's why I need you on my team.
That's right. And I think that's part of what you have to do, even when you're coaching. The transition in whether it be COO or let's say just a director of anything, engineering, for example, in my past life, you reach a point in your career where you have to flip the switch in your mind to say, it's no longer about what I know or even necessarily who I know. It's about how I help my team get better. Yeah. And and when you hire people that are better than you, you hire them, in my mind, with that mindset, like what can I do? And maybe the school director I have, maybe someday, she'll might buy Jennifer and me out and own the franchise. She's younger than us. She might want to have that opportunity to do that, or maybe she'll go do her own franchise. I don't know.
I know you spoke about your parents passing away, and it was a real, pivotal point of like, and I'm assuming in your story, like,
yeah, it was.
What are we doing, honey?
Yeah, it was. Well, actually, I like to give credit where credit's due, and this is when it was really my wife. So
she's so good at that.
She is.
I've witnessed her several times, like just so good at that.
And she talk about I feel like a coaching failure at times because she is so smart and so insightful, and she doesn't give herself enough credit. Honestly,
she doesn't need to.
I think she does.
She's so good at it. She doesn't this is just that's who she is.
I agree.
So good.
I agree. She is really good. And so we knew her dad was going to die. We knew my dad was going to die. They both had late stage cancer, and then they died within 2 days of each other. And then we had the funerals. The following week, I think it was. Yeah, the following week we had their funerals. Their funerals were 5 days apart from each other. And then 2 days after we had the funeral mass for my mom, my dad passed away, and that was a gut punch.
Karl, wow.
Like I do believe, like, when you get to heaven and you get to see St. Peter or God, however you'd like to think about these things, you get to ask questions like why did that happen? Well, that's my question. Like, what the heck? Like, what was that about? And definitely there's some anger things in my own mind even to this day, even though I've gone through therapy, which I highly recommend anybody to do if you need it. But coming out of that and coming back to work, and I was trying to transition back into work, and we knew there were some things that were going to change about my job. And the thing I liked and hated about COO was your job was always to pretty much do what didn't fit well within the rest of the team, within my Hilti context. And so we were getting ready to make more changes, and I just didn't have like the energy to like go through this again. I don't know that I felt like curious to learn new things, and they had offered me to like do some different roles in the company, including maybe moving back overseas, which Jennifer and I love to travel, so like that was sort of mildly interesting. But Jennifer just told me one day, she goes like, what, like, to your point, like, what are we doing? Like, why don't we just take a break? We've actually we had done a nice job saving over the years for retirement, and she was like, let's just use a little bit of that money and take a break. So we hit a cruise. We got to go see some friends we hadn't seen in a long time. Flew out to Montana and go see a cousin and his wife and their 2 kids. And then during that time, we were trying to figure out, okay, what do we want to do? And Richie, I mean this with all respect, I really do, because I met with a friend of mine who's the CEO of a large public company, and he didn't realize everything. Well, he had found out through the grapevine what had happened, and then he had reached out to me and we had lunch. And I asked him, I said, hey, so like, I'm thinking about like what company I would go back to, because at this point I wasn't thinking about entrepreneurship. I really wasn't. And he told me, he said, Karl, he said, let me walk you through my quarter. And it was a publicly traded company. So he walked through his quarter. It was meeting with bankers, investors, regulators, and both SEC regulators and the industry he's in is very regulated. And it worked out that he had about a 1 week out of the quarter he actually spent within the company with his team.
Wow.
And he said, you don't strike me as that kind of person, because what I do is largely transactional, because it's about maintaining the banking relationships, the regulator relationships. He goes, and that's fine. I need that as part of my job. But he goes, you like to work with people. And he's like, is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know that I do.
Right.
And he gave me some advice, because he had gone through a really difficult time earlier in his career, and that was helpful. And it was like one of these God moments, where like he connected with me to share this story with me and this advice with me, and it was what I needed to hear. And that prompted me to start thinking about entrepreneurship. And then I thought, okay, like, start your own company is like 90% failure in your first 5 years. I'm like, at that time I was 54. I was like, do I really want to have a failure this close to my retirement? Probably answer is no.
I can be inside the 10%.
Yeah, well, I have that mentality a little bit sometimes, but I'm also kind of objective to say,
Yeah,
okay,
I gotcha.
do I want to run that risk?
Right.
And so then it boiled down to between franchising and buying an existing company. Probably not childcare, honestly, but buying an existing company, and then because the success rate's actually pretty good there. But then I'd have to like spend time finding a company that I'm passionate about, that I want to buy, and we didn't know how long that was going to take. And Jennifer was also very clear, because I am like the Energizer Bunny. I always have to have something to do. And she was like, you need to do something sooner. And franchising, remember those books, the Something for Dummies?
Yeah, Franchise for Dummy.
It's like franchising is like starting a business for dummies.
Wow.
Right? The way I kind of simplified it in my mind, because you get a playbook, you have other people. In your case, you're earlier in the franchise model. So we have a little bit more flexibility than, let's say, if I bought a McDonald's franchise.
Right.
There, you're probably not allowed.
Flexibility.
You're no flexibility, right? And I like the idea of being able to influence things, because as you've learned about me, I have some things I like to push back on, and I want to be creative at times.
Love that.
And I know you do, right?
Yeah, love that.
But I don't know if I would have had that opportunity in a different kind of model, right? And so all of it eventually just led to Celebree, and then frankly the growing big and growing small. the approach to building the business and a long-term vision towards serving the community, plus, obviously a financial reward for ourselves. It just all led to hey, let's do this.
Anything you underestimated or didn't expect in becoming? I know you shared a little bit of,
but the HR one is an example.
Not having the not having the corporate resources, but
I think the thing that I would something I underestimated, and I don't want to call it effort because I don't believe it's effort, but it's challenging to go fast when you're limited in your resources, because even though you can leverage the franchise model, local marketing, local community engagement, those types of things all take time. Building awareness for your business and awareness of the brand in a new market like I have takes time. And so speed, I think, was the one thing that I overestimated, how quickly we could, let's say, ramp on construction, ramp on architecture, ramp on an opening, right? Ramp on the enrollments or registrations. I think I overestimated how quick we could go. And even though I threw money at it, which is what big companies do, I threw money at it, but it wasn't, we didn't get the return as quickly as what I thought we would be able to.
Which is probably the reason why 90% of businesses fail.
I think you're probably right.
Because when you just sound like that makes total sense, right? Because they just don't get there fast enough and don't have the resources to get there fast enough or get there at all.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
All right.
And you have to be invested all in. It's interesting to me when so we have some friends. One of them owned a different kind of franchise. Unfortunately for them, they opened in the middle of COVID, right? And it didn't last 2 years because it was retail and, not COVID, the 2008 financial crisis.
Got it.
And so everybody pulled back on the purse strings, and there was retail. It was largely a discretionary kind of purchase. And they couldn't make it because to your point, if you can't go fast, eventually you can go out of business because you just run out of working capital.
Or have the support around you saying, here's the chokeholds, as we call it. Here's the chokeholds. Here's the opportunity. Here it is, Karl. Solve this, and we'll continue to move forward.
I completely agree with you. Completely agree. And that's one of the things I like about Celebree is that I'm not where I would like to be. If you look at our pro forma ramp, I'm a little bit behind that. But the thing I like about it is I have my FBC Angel. I think she's amazing. She comes in and she pushes me. And by the way, she doesn't just pile on. She's like, okay, let's just focus. What are the 2 or 3 things you can do in the next few weeks in these areas? Which makes it more palatable as an entrepreneur, because then you don't feel like you're trying to boil the ocean or chew the whole elephant. I'm like, okay, I just got to do this one thing right now and make it incrementally better.
That's one of the things that we have learned as a franchisor too, is how to disseminate that information instead of just here are all of your opportunities, Karl. And it's I remember some guy saying, he just gave me such good feedback of I just don't know where to start. So we learn how to chunk that down and the things that drive the business, where the business is today.
That's good compliment.
Today.
Right.
Not 6 months from now or a year from now, but what are the opportunities that we see in order to help you right here today?
I agree. And I see the same thing. And I feel that on my end. I like, and by the way, even though she helps me focus, I would also say all those other options are out there. If I seek out, if I want to go crazy on more community connections, there's a person that'll help me do that. Right. That's not where I'm at right now in my journey. And because of other things I do in the community, I get a lot of the benefit so I don't feel like I have to do that all the time. Though there's times I think to myself, I need to do more of it because maybe I could increase the ramp a little bit more. But to your point, those resources are all out there. But then if you get it chunked into okay, this is what you need to do right now. In our space, it's about driving registrations and getting your as I call it, butts and seats. But we talk about registration, child starts, and it's about driving payroll. And making sure you recruit and hire the right people, right? Those 3 things are really important, and so for me right now, I've got a good team. I'm not as worried about payroll right now. I'm still trying to drive my top line, right?
Yeah. How do you measure success today?
So that's a great question.
Like it's in the corporate world, CEO, whole different measurement, I'm sure, of how you are winning in your position. How do you and Jennifer measure that today?
So I would say I don't have a quantifiable thing I would in a COO role, where I have like a metric for this and a metric that. I think we look at it. I think it's frankly three things, right? It's number one, are we making an impact with our team, right? And that means like, do I feel like we're connecting with our team? Are we helping them develop? I believe that in the chicken or the egg story here, you need great teachers that are well prepared and have the right motivation, the right competencies, as we talk about, and they lead with the right behaviors consistently in the classroom. Now, I also am honest with the teachers. Like, I know you're going to have a bad day here and there. Yeah. I just need you to bring your A game a lot more than you let those bad days slip in. And when you're having a bad day, you need to let us know so we can give you extra support in the classroom, or maybe you just need to take a day off for PTO, right? Yeah. And so that's number one. Number two is the financial part of it, right? We want to be able to see a return, but we only can get that return if we're invested in the experience for the kids and the families. And the way I portray that to our team, you can have goals, right? You can say, I need an enrollment goal, I need a brand standard goal, I need a financial goal, I need payroll as a percentage of revenue goal. I simplify for the whole team. It's about the experience, right? You as a teacher need to provide a good experience to the kids and the families in the classroom. We need to give you a good experience with a good schedule, the right kind of staffing so that you don't lose breaks or other silly things like that. We need to make sure that you get what you deserve as a good teacher, which for us is a 15-minute paid break in the morning, which I bring from manufacturing. And then I bring that from manufacturing, which I can come back to that in a little bit. And then you get your lunch. And by the way, you need to treat each other with respect. You need to be on time for your breaks, because if you're not on time, you're going to negatively impact somebody else. Right. And so we talk about that. And then we say, and then we want to have a good experience as owners. So we want to make sure the business grows. And then out of that, you guys will be rewarded. The families will feel good. We'll feel good about that. And we actually can, maybe take a paycheck, And that seems to resonate for the team when I simplify it like that.
Yes.
And so we're sticking with that. We did it last year. We're doing it again this year. And I think I'll probably do it next year too, just for the sake of consistency, even if I want to change it, because I think it's going to be good if the teachers and my school director and my assistant director, if they hear Jennifer and I saying, "Hey, you just focus on the experience, and we'll take care of everything else."
Love that.
Right,
Karl. Thank you, brother.
Hey, my pleasure.
I learn something from you every time we get together. I'm serious. You're all that experience that you've brought forward and brought to Celebree, I appreciate. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you for the partnership, and I really appreciate the friendship, more importantly.
Hey, thank you, Richie. I like you too.
You're welcome, brother.
You're good.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Enrich Your Empire. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Richie Huffman Celebree. We've got more great episodes lined up for you, so check back with us soon. Until then, stay inspired, stay driven, and keep building your empire.